Welcome to another episode of the Music Teachers in International Schools podcast. I'm your host, Chris Kulmer. Thank you to all of those of you who have been leaving comments and reviews on the various podcast platforms lately. It's been great to hear that these topics are hitting home and that they're useful for you guys. So don't forget, if you're enjoying the podcast and want to connect a little more with what we're doing, head over to the website, which is mtiis.co, and you can sign up to our fortnightly newsletter. And I know you already get a million emails a week, so I try to keep it simple. You'll get a link to the podcast, the latest episode. You'll get a link to a professional learning opportunity that's kind of specific to international schooling, and some kind of resource that either myself or someone in the community has found that might be helpful to support your teaching. That's it, just those three things. So again, head over to mtiis.co and you can sign up there. Okay, on to today's episode. I am super fortunate to have Jana Beydoun with me today. And Jana is originally from Slovakia and is currently the head of expressive and performing arts at a school in Phuket, Thailand. Like many of us, Jana has just come off a massive run of winter concerts, school musicals, Lunar New Year celebrations, and more. So I'm happy she could make some time for this conversation. And Jana is an experienced music educator who is well versed in both the IB and British style curricula, especially the CIE, and now provides mentoring for music teachers who are transitioning between these two curricula, so IB to CIE or CIE to IB. Jana has also had quite an uphill battle throughout her career due to the cultural biases that are often perpetuated through international schooling, an interesting topic, which is something I'm looking forward to digging into a bit today. Jana, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Chris, for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you today about the cultural biases, about music, and everything that comes with being a teacher at international schools.
So to start us off, can you tell us a bit about your background as a musician and a music educator?
So I studied in Slovakia. In our educational system, we had music as a part of our curriculum, but then to do extra music, I had to go to specialized schools in the afternoon. So as an extracurricular activity, my parents would take me to a music school, and I did 8 years of piano. And after 8 years of piano, I finished, and the director of the school approached me and he says, I think you would be a great person to learn to play a double bass, because we need a double bass player. And I thought at the beginning, I said, yeah. I laughed about it. And I said, my fingers are too short for playing a double bass. And I'm a girl. And I said, no, I think it would be great. So I took the challenge, and I learned to play double bass, and they allowed me to play in the school's orchestra and the little jazz band, and then took me to meeting other musicians, and I ended up playing with a traditional style American big band throughout my university. And before uni, I also was very fortunate that I got a job with a theater orchestra. So for a year, I was with a professional theater orchestra, which was amazing experience, especially when you are 19, 20, and you're working with these professional dancers and musicians, and it was amazing. And then I went to uni and studied English and language literature and music, and that was my double major to become a music educator. Because that's, again, in Slovak system, that's how it works. So I had to do 5 years of studies to get my master's degree. And at the time, I don't know how it is now, but we're talking 25 years back, they wouldn't allow me to study music as a single subject. I had to pick another subject. So I said, okay, I'll do English, because it was something I was quite confident with. So I did. So I'm basically trained, and I've got a degree in teaching music at secondary schools. That was specialized course. So teaching music at secondary schools and English as a second language. So that's where my music career started, and I continued playing with the big band and with traditional folk ensembles. throughout my whole university career. I was playing with a band and we were playing gigs. So that was great. And I was teaching English on the side as well to make some extra money. And then at the end, when I finished my 5 years, there was this opportunity through Open Society Foundation. I was just actually researching them today to see what's happening there. They were offering jobs for teachers from Central and Eastern Europe within UK, Scotland, and Wales. And they were not looking for anyone who can teach English. They were looking for people who can speak English to work in an English British environment. But other subjects like maths, science, geography, music. So I applied for the job, went through the interview process, was successful in the interviews. And then that moment they've sent my CV to probably about, I don't know how many schools, about 50 to 100 schools that they had this contract with across the UK, Scotland and Wales. And then they said, okay, so if any school needs a music teacher, they will contact you directly. And then there was one school that got back to me saying, would you like a job with us? And that's how it all started, with my moving from Slovakia, going abroad when I never really planned on it. I never had this intention to go and work and live abroad. And I kept saying to everyone, I'm only going for a year. I'll be back. It's only UK. It's only like hour and a half flight, or 2 hours flight. 20 years later, I'm still not back in Slovakia properly. So that's all how it started.
That's amazing. Did you say that you looked at the website for was it Open, what was it
Open
called?
Society Foundation, yeah.
Are they still offering this opportunity?
Well, it seems like it's grown into massive charity organization. They're offering all different funding and other options. I've just looked at it just before we started our chat. So I thought I need to look, because I haven't been in touch with anyone ever since. Like at the beginning, it seemed like a very small organization. They had an office in London, and the guy actually came from London to Slovakia, to Bratislava, to carry the interviews. And that was still the time when I had to apply for visa. So there was quite a lengthy process as well, because I couldn't just hop on a plane and go to the UK. We had to have a visa, and that took a while as well. So that was interesting. And they were offering, it was purely for Central and Eastern European qualified teachers. So you had to have a teaching qualification from any country in Central and Eastern Europe, and then go through the interview, and then we'd just be lucky. Like I was lucky that the school needed another music teacher, and because they offered this, the package wasn't great, but it was experience-wise. Like that's, I think, what was the first stepping stone for me on my path to where I am now, because I never would have had this British curriculum experience that I had. And I was very lucky. I had an amazing head of music who trusted me and in a way threw me in the deep end, but he gave me a chance to experience teaching GCSE and A-level. That was something that, again, once I started applying for jobs abroad, I said, oh, I already have experience doing this.
So you had how long in the UK? And then after that, so tell us how long you were in the UK then, and then where did you go from there?
So I was there only for a year. The contract was for a year. And talking to my friends who picked up the same contract, everyone pretty much only, the schools wouldn't, some of the schools offered extension, but our school just said, no, we just do 1 year and then it's your choice where you're going to go. And I was kind of deciding at the time that I'll go back to Slovakia. But my friend who was teaching at the same school, she was the head of drama. She kind of planted this idea in my head saying, ooh, if I was you, young and well-educated and well-spoken and, independent, I would go and live abroad and I would teach at international schools. Mind you, at the time, I didn't even know that there is such a thing as international schools. Yeah. For me, the world is still very small. And she kept talking to me about it and I said to her, like, where would you go if you had a chance? And she said to me, she used to live in Kenya. And she said, I would go back to Africa anytime. And my reaction was like, yeah, no, I don't have any intentions of going to live in Africa or work in Africa. But she kept talking and giving me these ideas. And then I was like, you know what, like, I'll just apply. I'll just start looking and I see what happens. You never know, right? Things might happen or might not. If it doesn't, I'll just go back to Slovakia. I had job offers in Slovakia, so I knew it's safe for me. Either way, whatever will happen, I can always go back to Slovakia. And then there was this job in Tanzania, and I applied for it, and I got the job in Tanzania out of blue. Like within a week, everything happened from my application to interview. Again, we're talking 20 years ago, so it was on the phone on my little Nokia, when you don't have any fancy stuff.
Yeah.
And they sent me a contract. I had a friend whose husband was a lawyer who looked through the contract for me because it was my first experience, and he said, "No, it's all good." And I said, "Well, then that's it. I'm going to Tanzania." And the first contract was for 2 years, and then I extended for another 2. So I was in Tanzania for 4 years. In a really lovely school, and it's one of these places that I keep saying, if I were to leave Phuket and go somewhere, I would. And I had different choices. Or if somebody said, "Do you want to go back to Tanzania, or do you want to go somewhere else?" I would just go, "Yeah, Tanzania is the place."
Wow.
The school was lovely. The kids were lovely. I think it was. Again, I was very lucky with having this first international school experience in such an environment. It was a small school. There was a lot of work, and because I was trying to build a music curriculum there and music program. But again, it was an amazing experience. So that was my first international school experience.
So before we sort of talk more about music stuff, what happened from there? So it's Tanzania, and then take us all the way to where you are now.
I got itchy feet and wanted to try something else. This job offer came from Kazakhstan, Almaty, Kazakhstan, for director of music. There was a new international school opening. They were looking for someone with my experience to kind of help establish the program. I fell into this rhythm of picking the schools that are looking into development or establishment of the music programs. And it was a new school opening, brand new. The building was being constructed as we got there. So that was brand new. They offered me a director of music. And from there, I went to Hong Kong because when I was in Tanzania, I met my current husband, and he got a job in Hong Kong. So from there, I went to Hong Kong, and I've taught in a few schools in Hong Kong. And then we had our 2 children, and I took a break from teaching for a couple of years just to be home with kids. And we wanted a change of environment because Hong Kong is an amazing city, but when you have 2 small children, it's a whole new level. So we wanted a bit more space and fresh food and fresh air and clean environment and beaches and everything. So we moved to Phuket. And I was here for about a year when I got a job offer from a school here in Phuket. Again, they were looking for someone to establish their music program because they didn't have a proper music program in secondary school. And that was my experience. This is my when I came to learn about IB and middle years and diploma. Well, I had a diploma experience from Hong Kong, but not middle years program. So that's where I'm now, and we've been here in Phuket for 7.5 years now.
So you've just started in this new role in Phuket, and before I ask this next question, actually, for those who are listening and you want to know more about Jana's experiences in Tanzania, Kazakhstan, and Hong Kong, please reach out to her. We're not going to go too deep into those experiences today. I think we might. But if you do want to know more about that, about the place, about the schools, please do reach out, and we'll leave some details in the show notes for how to do that. But let's talk about what's happening now in Phuket. So you've started this new role, building a new secondary school music department. What's been a highlight so far of this new role for you?
This is the first time that I actually have a role when I'm not only looking at music, I'm looking and helping to build arts in general. So I got visual arts and drama. It's a massive learning curve for me as well, because I need to learn about those curriculums as well for drama and arts. But it's an amazing experience because I get to work across the whole school with different teachers, and you probably know, being a music teacher might be a very lonely job sometimes when you end up being by yourself and doing everything by yourself. But now when I have got the support from other teachers in the department, not just music, but across the expressive performing arts, we've been able to, working on shows and performances. It's a whole new level now. Plus, the leadership in our school, both the principal and vice principal are the musicians, and they have got the fine arts background. So I get a lot of support from them, and they have a vision, and I have a vision what I want to achieve. And we I make a lot of work for myself, because I always kind of say, oh, I had this idea, let's try this, and let's do this. And they're excited, I'm excited. But it's great to work at school then, when music is important subject, and arts in general, drama. And we have a drama even in primary school. It's the first school actually I work for in 20 years that they had drama lessons in primary schools, and kids love it. So yeah.
That's really interesting. And I'm wondering if some of our listeners will be thinking, this is unique, because I haven't heard that often of a school with, where the principal or the senior leadership team are in the arts or even in music, or, that's really unique. That's quite amazing and really cool to hear. I'd love to hear from anyone in the community who's also got this situation where they've got, arts teachers in the SLT, the senior leadership team.
I had in my school in Kazakhstan, the headmaster was a musician, lovely, lovely person. He loved his Beatles, and everywhere he came, he would sit down at the piano and play Imagine most of the time. But that was, again, one of those experiences when you work with someone who understands the importance of music in the life of students, not only sciences and languages and maths. Like, they understand how much music helps with development of the children's brain, and how much it helps with their overall development and outlook on the world and everything. So it's great if anyone has a chance and get a job working with SLT, with fine arts and music background. It's the experience.
It'd be nice to see job advertisements that put that in the advert or something.
Yeah.
SLT is artist or something like that. Not sure if that'll happen. Okay, really nice. Well, that's great. So, as you mentioned earlier, you are a Slovakian national, and we had a really nice chat prior to this podcast recording about what that means for you and sort of your history and background, as a Slovakian national and working in the international school context. Have there been any barriers, or I guess that's probably the word, barriers on your way and I'm going to use this term because it does come up in research a bit, sort of like the non-dominant passport holders. So what we typically see in international schools, especially historically, is teachers that are from the UK, the US, Australia, Canada, that kind of thing, coming in. And there's a whole variety of reasons why that is the way it is. But have there been any barriers for you as a Slovakian national coming into international schools in terms of getting jobs or anything really?
Well, I don't know if you notice, when you're looking through advertisements for jobs, many of them say only native English speakers. So the moment I apply, I usually go, if I'm applying for jobs, I tend to not ignore it, but I'm thinking, okay, I'll send my CV regardless. But I've never heard from anyone back. Any of the schools that said only native English speakers, nobody ever got back to me saying we are interested in you. So that start. They didn't even look at the fact that I have got a degree in teaching English, or what I could bring to them as someone who has worked at international schools and lived in different places around the world. If it's a true international school, then you want someone with that kind of experiences, because these are the people who will do something for your school. But I find it with especially British schools, those who are promoting British curriculum, they're looking for people who have got experience teaching British curriculum. But then also they're looking, if they don't have a British passport, they're not going to be good. And these are all the questions once you start filling in application form. First question is, where are you from? What is your passport? What passport do you hold? And then there were several occasions when I knew they're not going to get back to me. They never did. Even regardless of the fact that I've been working 20 years and I've got all this experience with teaching British curriculum, I basically don't have the passport, or they just look at my name. And then Beydoun is my husband's name. So it sounds a bit more exotic. But with my maiden's name, they would look at my name and it would be like, okay, not this pile.
Off the pile. How interesting.
Yeah. And I've been watching and following on the social media the debates about non-native English speakers. And there is a lot of people saying, not only me as Slovak, there is other nationalities saying exactly the same. The moment they see you are non-native English speakers or you don't hold the right passport, then that's it. Coming to Thailand with my first school, I had to go and sit an English exam in order for the Thai Education Bureau to approve that I can work as a teacher in Thailand, regardless, again, of the fact that I have got a degree in teaching English. But their reasoning was, I don't have Australian, American, British, New Zealand, or South African passport. Therefore, I have to sit an exam in English. And then the results came back. I went to the university here in Phuket with other students doing their English exam. And the results came back to our office in school. And our lady in the office says, oh my God, you got 100% for your English exam. And I was like, what did you expect? But I had to go through that process. And there was no way out of it. Again, just purely because I got the wrong passport.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an Australian passport holder. I've never had that experience.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating. And I liked what you said. If there's anything we can take from that little kind of conversation that you've just brought up, that's kind of on the positive side, is definitely that this conversation seems to be happening more. And I've seen this more in a whole bunch of different platforms and ways. There's some great research coming out that's exposing, I guess is the right word, some of these really interesting practices in international school hiring, which needs to happen more and more. And yeah, if anyone's interested in looking at this more, again, we'll put some things in the show notes, maybe some people that you might be able to get in touch with or look at some of their work or some organizations that are working on this. Jana, do you have any specific suggestions or ideas that you would want to offer someone that doesn't have one of those dominant passports, so to speak, that might be struggling in the job market?
I think first thing I would suggest is choose which school you want to go and work for, where the school is, which country it is, where even the country's requirements. Like here, I didn't know about Thailand having that requirement. So see what the requirements are, and then start. There's so much now. When I started, there was nothing, but now there's all these online professional development courses that even if you haven't studied, like me, I haven't studied in UK, and I got a degree from a university in Slovakia, you can take a course in your particular subject, whether it's music or anything else, to learn about British curriculum if you're going to work for a British school. And then when you are applying for the school, then you can straight away say, well, I don't have the passport, but I have done this course and I've done that, and I've got a really good working knowledge of the British curriculum. That would be one thing. Secondly, if there's any charities that you can volunteer work for, then you can start putting this into practice. In COVID time, I lost my job. So there was a charity here in Phuket that I said, do you want me to come and teach music to your students? And they said, yeah. So I picked up all my stuff that I've done in all these years, and I worked with the children of Burmese immigrants who live in Thailand. So their parents work at the construction sites mostly, and the kids are at home. So there's a charity that called Good Shepherd that is providing education and food for them. So I basically said, okay, let's see what we can do. And I had these beautiful kids who speak very little English, but I brought my British curriculum and I said, we are going to try this, and I'm going to teach you about the rhythm, and I'm going to teach you about this. And we went through different projects. I recorded them. They loved it. And that would be another thing to say, well, I haven't taught at the international school, but I have tried the curriculum or parts of it with, while volunteering. And it also shows to the schools that you are willing to go and do something that it's out of your comfort zone, or just to get the experience. So that definitely those two would be my top two tips. And also, just be flexible and believe in yourself. It will come. The right job will come. And I think you need to start with the schools that are not that well known. So don't go straight for Harrow International. I got big names. I'm not targeting Harrow. I'm just saying those big schools, because they usually want someone with 3 years experience already. So start small. Like I started in Tanzania. And that way I got the exposure. I got to learn more about international curriculum. Maybe look into Open Society Foundation if they're still offering that kind of program, and gain experience of teaching. And then you can go and say, well, yeah, I don't have the passport, but I do have experience. And I come from this kind of country that would bring. I highlighted to school that you're applying for. What could you do for them if they hired you? Why, to the contrary, not being the passport holder would be beneficial for the school? Because they look at it like there is something wrong with you. If you haven't lived in UK or if you're not American, Australian, New Zealander, obviously you can't bring anything to school. But it's to the contrary. True international schools would like to have true international staff, as well, from all kinds of worlds, and that's what would show. They especially whatever mission and vision of the school is, it's in the word, it's international.
I love this. And I think there is a movement, and I actually think it's coming from the arts that I'm seeing anyway, and definitely within our music teachers in international schools community, this idea that like, what is an international school and how can music education in all the diversity of music that we have available to teach and to work with, and people from cultural contexts bringing amazing musical experiences that certainly me as one of those dominant passport holders definitely doesn't have. I think it's starting to snowball. I'm hoping it is. And I find it fascinating to see. So really amazing point. And hopefully that's an encouragement to all of us to either think differently or to sort of be ready for this change.
It's great if people are bringing it up. I think it was this kind of a taboo, you don't talk about it. But now with all the social media availability, and obviously again 20 years ago there was no really social media where you could express your opinions, but now there is platforms and people are getting together saying, hey, why should I be disadvantaged because I don't have the passport that you would like? Unless it's really the country saying wherever the school is that they won't provide work permits for people with different passports and these, then it's a different story. But if it's in schools thinking, oh well, we don't want anyone without this passport because we don't see a benefit in it, then there is something wrong with that thinking and need to be changed.
Jana, thanks for taking us through that discussion, and we might continue talking about it, but let's pivot a little bit to some music stuff. And you've spoken about your experience as a musician, and I liked your little story about becoming a bass player. That was cool. We've got a lot of people in the community that are maybe coming into international school music education. And this is something that I mentioned in the intro you've been working on, sort of a one-to-one or consultant sort of mentor support person for teachers that are kind of new to the scene. What is some of the work you've been doing with these teachers?
So again, being in this kind of situation myself, I started working in a school where I was the only music teacher. And I found it very difficult to bounce my ideas off someone or just to get help. And I realized there must be other people and other teachers who are in exactly the same situation, that they got hired. It's a brand new curriculum to them, whether it's British curriculum or IB curriculum. And now they're working for a small school. Like my first school was 200 kids, the whole school. So it's a small school. Therefore, you are the only music teacher, and now you're kind of thrown in the deep end, saying where the leadership is saying to you, so we want a proper music program, we want this and we want that. And if you have got 1-2 years experience or no experience, you're fresh out of school, then there's this kind of like, so who is going to help me? How am I going to find ideas? And now with the social media platforms and different platforms, it's easier to kind of write and say, oh, who can help me? And I thought that would be a great way for me to kind of help people that I've been there. I know how it feels. I've been through it. And this is what I would like to offer to them and to help them get through that difficult time. And kind of for some people, it's enough. For some teachers that I chatted with, it was enough just to give them a kind of broad idea, some basic points, like you need to do this, 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 and then you work from there. For some, coming to a whole new experience, we spent a couple hours just sitting, going through what is expected from you in that particular curriculum, how to build the units, how to build the assessment tasks, how to get this whole music department up and running together. I had this amazing, I just saw this guy posting on one of my Facebook music teachers groups saying, I'm new to international teaching. I got 20 years of experience in our local school, but I just got this job with the international school and they're teaching IB program. I have no idea who can help me. And I reached out to him and said, I can. And we've now been in touch for over a year. We've been through, I made some video recordings for him. We had every 2 weeks, we had a meeting about how it's going for him. And he needed it all. Like he was not familiar with IB curriculum. So we went through what IB curriculum is, and then how to build units and what each year group should be working towards and how to go around it. And it was a great experience for him and for me, because I've tried a few things. It's for the first time I'm doing something like that I'm not only working for myself, I'm actually trying to give my experience and any knowledge, anything, any tips to make their lives easier as a new music teacher or a music teacher to a new program. So for me, it was this learning curve as well. When I came from a British curriculum. I've been teaching British curriculum for years and years. And then I was like in this IB curriculum. And I was like, okay, so where I'm going to find answers. And then going through that myself, and I said, okay, you can do this. This is how you can use the knowledge from each curriculum to help build other curriculum or other units and whatever you need in the other curriculum. But there's British to IB or other way around.
Yeah, maybe even here's what maybe not to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another thing, because I was, as a new many years back when I started teaching IB program, I follow the guidelines for teachers, and there is a lot of assessment. And I found myself just assessing kids all the time until I realized, like, oh no, it's not going to work like this. This is what not to do. And that's exactly what I said to him. Don't do this, because you're going to find yourself completely flooded with assessments. This is how to approach it. So you have got your assessment, you have got your data and information about each child's progress, but also you're not going to burn out from constantly just marking their work or, recording their performances and whatnot. So
yeah. Well, you've kind of shared a nice tip there for us. Do you have any other tips that you wouldn't mind sharing on the podcast today for someone who is new to international school music teaching? Have you got any other top tips for them?
Be open-minded and flexible. You always, as you come to school, and it's if you're coming from your traditional UK background, it's a completely different. The kids in international schools think differently. They all come from different countries, from different cultures, from different religious backgrounds as well. So that's when your flexibility kicks in, because you have to be flexible in creating. When you're creating even the music units that you want to teach to kids, I always ask them to bring something from their own cultures, and I give them a chance to say, okay, play music from your culture. Tell me about your music. Or tell me what you like listening. It doesn't have to be their culture, but something that they like to listening. So invite kids that you're teaching to bring their ideas into the classroom. It doesn't all have to be just, okay, curriculum says I have to teach them rhythms and note values now. Use that knowledge and say, okay, so in Thai music, they have got these beautiful Thai instruments. I got one student who plays it. So I said, okay, let's learn about something more about Thai music. We live in Thailand. You should be doing it. Like when I lived in Tanzania, I met these beautiful dancers and drummers, and I invited them, and they ran the music workshop for me, for our students, about drumming and storytelling in different African languages. So it's that bringing it all together, and especially being open-minded, being flexible where you are, what you can do to give everyone the best experience, including yourself.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the last episode on the podcast with Steve Jackman. I asked him my favorite question, what makes a good international school music teacher? And his response was context. Like, it's all context. You've got to be open and flexible to your school context. So
Yes.
I think you're echoing that nicely. Any other top tips you want to share?
When you're a new music teacher and school expresses interest in you, like my first couple experiences where they said, well, we would like to give you a job for a secondary music teacher, but it comes with primary teaching as well. You need to take primary classes. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have, I'm not qualified. I never taught little kids. It's not my cup of tea. But just say, yeah, I'll do it. And I did it. And it's just a great experience. It's one of those experiences again. Like I wasn't qualified, but I went, okay, let's give it a try. What could possibly go wrong? I'm going to play instruments and sing songs. Okay, the small kids, it's a completely different level of music. And you learn to use different language that you would use with the secondary students. So I would say be adventurous as well. And if there is opportunity, don't turn it down because, I haven't taught primary. I think it's one of the things that also pushed me where I am now, because all of a sudden I've got these years of teaching primary kids, not because I chose to, but I was put in a situation and I said, yes, I will do it because I want that job. And if it comes with teaching primary, then it's coming with teaching primary kids. And now when I'm running the whole program across primary and secondary, I know from my past experience how the kids are thinking in a way, what you can expect of them to be done within the time limit they have got of one class. And now when I'm building music program, I also know how to build it from the ground. So what should be starting in, year one, going all the way to year 13. So that's one thing that I would really encourage people to take as a great opportunity.
That is a great tip.
And if you're applying for jobs as well, don't just apply like, because I'm secondary trained, I'm only applying for secondary. Have a look at the schools, have a look what they could offer you. Maybe that's the one step, even if you're not the dominant passport holder. Well, you start small. You start with primary kids in a smaller school and you build.
Yep. I love that. That's a great tip. I think there's one more area that I want to sort of ask a little bit about, which is this transitioning between the curriculum thing, which I think you've covered a little bit, but what are some ways that you think teachers can successfully move between, say, a British style curriculum to IB or vice versa?
They're not that different. At the end of the day, you are teaching the same skills and the same knowledge. It's a music language. You're teaching them about melody, rhythm, harmony, different periods of music, and different cultures, musical cultures. So you're teaching the same content. You just need to put it in the context of the curriculum. Whilst British curriculum is more, I found it is more flexible with, I do a lot of practical exercises. The kids come to school and we probably do like 1 or 2 lessons on introducing them into the context of, I don't know, we're doing blues music now with year 8. So we learn about what is blues music and where it started, how it came about. And then we just go straight into playing blues and creating blues and just having fun with that type of, or with the genre. Whilst with the IB curriculum, it's more, they like a lot of written content that comes with it. So not only you're creating music, but then you have to write, why did you take the steps that you did?
Or the reflective stuff.
There's a lot of reflection and a lot of creative thinking that has to be supported by written statements. So that's something that I found like I needed to modify the way I was teaching, that I had given students the time to also write about it, because it is a requirement by the IB curriculum. So just looking at what you can do, you know what you're teaching, just to make sure that you are within the boundaries or within the requirements of the given curriculum. But at the end of the day, it's music, and you're teaching the music, whether it's American, British, whatever curriculum. And what you want is for your students to enjoy it as well. I never wanted them to be sitting there and be bored, like, and writing and it's just come in and bring your music and let's have fun. It's a lot of work. I was standing there like on Friday, I was standing there with my bass guitar. We were doing blues and the kids were all playing their little chords like C major and C major again. And I had one who was playing drums and like I had fun. But at the end of the lesson, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And now I have another group coming and we're going to do the same, just different genre, you know. So it's a lot of work. But kids come out and they're so happy when they come and when they can actually play music. You will have a very small percentage of kids who don't want to play instruments, who are really, really not into music.
Yeah.
And they will choose just to do the least possible. But majority of the students that I've come across in all my teaching years, they want to do it. So I think that's one of the things. It doesn't matter which curriculum it is. Obviously, you have to follow the guidelines, but give them the most out of practical part. And whether it's playing instruments or teaching them to use music tech, different music composing programs or whatever it is, just all these experiences would make a huge impact.
I think that's a great place to leave today's discussion. I love how you sort of tied that up. Was there anything else you wanted to share with us, Jana, from today, or anything that we didn't quite cover?
No, I think we're good. I think unless there's something you want to say, I think I've been speaking a lot.
That's the thing of a podcast. We're here to listen to you. So no, it was really nice. Thank you again for your time. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm so glad we could touch on some kind of tricky topics as well. And hopefully that resonated with you guys in the audience. And again, please do reach out if you have any questions. One final time, we have the show notes. So please go onto mtiis.co and you can find those there and you'll see links to things. But Jana, thank you so much for taking the time again. And like I said at the intro, you've had a massive period of, I mean, everyone has really, but concerts and musicals and all the things. So thank you. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to staying in touch.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to speak to you and present my ideas and share my experiences with everyone who's going to listen to this. And if there's anyone who wants to reach out to me by any means, I'll be happy to help out.
Thanks so much, Jana. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Music Teachers in International Schools podcast. Listen to other episodes by visiting mtiis.com or learn more about our community on Facebook by simply searching for Music Teachers in International Schools. If you know someone who you think I should get on the podcast, I'd love to hear from you. You can find me at chriskoelma.com, chriskoelma.com. See you next time.